Speak your truth. We back with Miles again. Part two already. I love it. Miles, what's up, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just hanging out, man. What's up with you?
Man, I can't complain. I really can't complain. I'm on here with you. It's a beautiful Wednesday night. It's raining. I literally asked God for rain, and it's rained the last 2 days. So I feel like weather woman over here controlling stuff. I think I am, right? I think I am. I feel like I'm that connected, Miles. I don't know. But yeah, it's beautiful, man. I can't complain. So you hit me up, which I love. I love, I love, I love. And you wanted to talk about the expectations of athletes of color, specifically Black athletes. We know I don't like using that word no more, but for lack of better terms today, for Black athletes. But what's interesting is you said within our families and community instead of from everybody else. So I'm
Yeah.
super interested to hear what you have to say. So what's up?
I mean, it's something that's been on my mind for a long time.
Yeah,
Something I was super conscious of as a kid, and I'm sure, people listening, they might be able to resonate with this as well. But, a lot of us athletes of color, specifically African American athletes, we come from families that don't have that financial background. They don't have maybe a family business to fall back on. They don't have the means to where their family can support them for a very long time, or their family can really pitch in once they get to adulthood, get to 18, you out the house, you get to 18, you're on your own, stuff like that. And a lot of kids, their only way to get to college is through athletics. It's either you graduate high school and you go work, or you graduate high school and you're on a scholarship to go play, and that's maybe the only way you're getting to college. Or you do the community college route, and then once those university bills start coming in, it's like, hey, I'm out, I'm dipping. So for me, it was always super. I was always super conscious of it. Um, yes, my family wasn't super financially affluent. We weren't poor by any means, but we were, lower middle class at best. We weren't out there, going on vacations all the time, or, stuff like that. We made things work with school and with baseball, but that's about it.
definitely.
We're 99-cent store, grocery store every week.
Yo.
That's just how it was. But back to the expectations of it, as a kid, when you're conscious of that stuff, it puts a little bit more pressure on yourself. Maybe it's not the family that's super, you know, pressure oriented on you, but your own self pressure, because like, hey, this is my only shot. At least that's how I felt like, and I'm sure that's how other people may feel as well. It's like, hey, if this sports thing doesn't work out, or if I don't get a good connection from this sports thing, this is it. I'm another hometown hero. The kid that went to high school in the hometown, that the people knew for sports. And hey, man, this kid was really good in high school. This kid did this and that. He went to junior college, this and that. And then you see him doing whatever he's doing in his hometown. Hey, man,
Mhm.
he got to 21, 22 years old, and he's done. You know what I mean? He's like
Yeah.
every other average Joe that didn't have any type of athletic background. So that pressure's a lot, when it's not so much about, hey, I have these goals for myself, but hey, I have these goals for myself, so that way I can set up the next generation beyond me, so I don't have to keep that same cycle. And then with the community, you don't want to be that hometown hero. We all, especially those of us that grow up in a small town, that has maybe one in town high school, that everyone, at least for me, growing up in Pittsburgh, California, we have one high school, beautiful high school, but very small town, very generational, So you grow up here, and if you end up going to high school here, obviously you go to high school here. We have a community college in the town. So if you don't go off to a university, you go to a community college that's in the town. And then if you don't go off to a university after that, you pretty much stay in town, and you work and you do what you gotta do, whatever, whatever. And then the cycle continues. So for me, like, I grew up, my parents were separated. Both my parents lived in Pittsburgh, pretty close to one another, about 10 minutes or so. My dad lived down the street from high school, and he coached football. So growing up, I was always at the high school, always there. He lived down the street to the point where Friday nights would come the varsity game, you could hear the band from our house. It was that close, you know. So
Jeez.
yeah, I mean it was loud, but we were also super close. And the high school, Pittsburgh High, was great, a very good athletic school with football, basketball's pretty good, but football's like their sport, you know. And I grew up, always, around the football team, around the school in general. And a lot of really good athletes went through. A lot of really good athletes, a lot of really good people. I was fortunate enough to create some friendships with them as a little kid and stuff like that. But I always remember, hearing these names. And as a kid, I was like, oh man, he was like famous, he's whatever, you know what I mean? Because they're like idols to me as a little kid. Right? You're hearing names, and then you grow older and you're still hearing these names, but you don't hear any of these names past the high school level. You know what I mean? And then you come back and you see them, doing things that you didn't expect them to do. You expect them to go be these stars, to go have this great impact, and maybe they did, but you're back in the hometown, and for me, that created a fear. For me, I was like, hey, I don't want to be a dude that created this name for himself and then either didn't work out at whatever level it was, or just something didn't work out in general. And then I come back and then it's like, well, you did all this work and did all this, that, and the other, and you're right back here with all the rest of us, you know? So, community wise, the expectations, I don't know, maybe they didn't think of me that way. I don't know. Maybe the community in itself doesn't put other athletes in that same type of pressure bubble, but
Right.
I'm sure there are some communities that do, and other athletes that are like conscious of it. So that's a lot. And I just wanted to speak to that and let people know that, like, hey, you know, it's okay to feel that expectation. Like it's very real. It's very, very real, and I feel like the best thing you can do is just communicate with people about it. I know for me, like with my family, I got to a point, like I think it was like my last year in North Carolina where like I had to like tell them like, hey, like I need a little bit of space with athletics. You know what I mean? I want to be able to handle my stuff, but like talking about it and stuff like that all the time, like really started to weigh on me because you get to a point where like you feel like it's your identity. It's one thing for other people to think of you as an athlete and so like, okay, that's a little bit more passable because that's how they really know you. That's how they know you, whatever capacity they hear about you as an athlete. And they read about you, athlete, talk about other people, oh, so and so has a game, that's how they relate to you. Um, but family, friends, community, stuff like that, I felt like that was starting to become more of like my identity to them. And I didn't want that to be like my identity for myself. And that was something I really struggled with. I felt like the community expectation I was like assuming that I had on myself and like the family expectation and stuff like that. I felt like for me, like that really had like a really big impact on my identity.
Hmm.
What I felt like my identity was, I associated myself as a baseball player. So um I was always conscious of those expectations within the family and the community. But then I was also super conscious, more so like when I left high school, of like, hey, like I need to start separating myself as an individual from the sport I play.
Definitely. Did your parents ever um put any pressure on you to like use baseball as a tool to help take care of them, or was it just it was for you, like that was your thing?
No, I mean it was my thing, but really just what I was conscious of was more so like the college like the next level of it. The college aspect of it. Like, hey, if we don't, if this baseball thing doesn't work out, this college thing might not work out. And yeah, they were always willing um to do what they had to do to make things work for me, but I never wanted it to get to a point where they had to like take out loans or do something financially on their end that put themselves in a hole, you know what I mean, to help me out.
Definitely, that's real.
And I was like, I didn't want to put that pressure on them. and then have that pressure transfer over to me, because as soon as I graduate, that debt's all mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not something I wanted to do. My parents were always super helpful with everything. Um, I just think the communication of it is something that lacked, you know. Um, but yeah, the back to the question was just, they didn't put any pressure on me, but it was more so what I was conscious of. I was like, hey, like, if school's 15, $20,000 a year, what we
Yeah.
gonna do? You know what I
For
mean?
real.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to
You
tell you.
tried to go JUCO first, get a job. You gotta do something though. But
Exactly.
you gotta do what you gotta do. And I definitely feel you with the whole hometown hero thing. So I want to ask you, like, now that you're still playing, when
Mhm.
you're done, what do you think it's gonna be like if you go back home?
Oh, I'm back. I'm
Man,
back home now.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm back home, and I'm officially done on oh, I was done on May.
Okay,
May
okay,
7th
okay.
was my last one, and it's something. This was something I was always very, very conscious of, and almost, I don't want to say afraid, but like I was, yeah, it was kind of afraid of when the situation came. But I know there was one instance for sure when we have in Pittsburgh, there's this thing called the Michael Valley tournament. And basically what it is, it's a fundraising tournament, a co-ed softball tournament that's put on every year, the same weekend every year. It's like the second or first weekend in August, something like that. And when I tell you it's like a thing, it's a thing.
It's a
Talking
thing.
like thousands of people at this community park, and this community park has a good amount of fields, probably like 6 or 7. But
Wow.
we're talking barbecues, music, all the little chair, everything. Talking
What?
from all everyone in the county shows up who, like, wants to play or like played ball or whatever. And I played in it one time when I was 14. And I guess, told like I talked about in like the other episode, I didn't, I went to middle school and elementary school in Pittsburgh, but I went to high school at De La Salle, a couple towns over. And even growing up playing baseball, I never really played baseball in Pittsburgh outside of when I was like 6 through like 9. And everything else, I was out traveling, doing whatever, and playing ball. So I never played in Pittsburgh. But obviously, like, I grew up there, so I knew people that played and this and that, and they looked at me in like a completely different light. I was like the superstar. And for me, my personality, I don't like that type of recognition. I'd much rather talk about whatever you got going on, talk about anything else other than me and my baseball stuff. Because back to the identity issue, that's how everyone always related to me with. So I played in it one time when I was 14. And then after that, never again. Never. Every year would come up, and I was like, oh, you're gonna play, you're gonna play. I was like, no, I'll come up with some excuse. I don't want to get hurt. And for the longest time, it worked, because eventually I was playing college ball, and I was like, this is a week, 2 weeks before I have to go to campus. If I get hurt doing this, I'm scholarships on the line. Our coach is going to be pissed. What are you doing, hurting yourself playing a co-ed softball tournament? You know what I mean? It's like you hurting yourself playing a co-ed pickup game. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's over with for you, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, didn't even go to the tournament, because I was like, I don't want to see people. I don't want to have people, oh, it's superstar, this and that, this and that. I was like, hey, I'm cool. You gotta go have fun, whatever, whatever. So this August, I ended up going. I wasn't playing. I was like, yo, I need a break. I'm good. I need a break. I'm not trying to play. Let me just go. So my cousins had a team. I went out there, and every couple freaking minute, every time I would go and try and go to get water, go walk around, whatever, I see somebody.
Really.
Everybody, why are you playing? And did not did not fail, bro. The first time I got there, it was a 2-day tournament. First time I get there, I'm walking through and I see my cousin. And I'm like, oh, like, where are you guys playing at what field? So we walk over there, and I see a dude I've known since I was like 5 years old. So basically all my life. And we played ball together, whatever. So I talked to him. whatever. And lo and behold, was like, oh man, why aren't you playing this and that? And I was like, oh, I need a break, whatever. This is the same line I gave to everyone, right? And I walk over back to where my cousin is, and he sees someone. So we walk over there, and this dude that I've known for pretty much my whole life too. He's an older guy, it's like my parents' age, so I've known them that way. I see him, he goes, "What's up, superstar?" And I was like, here we go. Here we go.
You
And
gotta get used to it. It's
it's
only what, October? It's not even October yet. It's only September.
I know,
You still got plenty of people to see.
I know, I know, but I don't know, man. It's just something because it's like, no one else knows like anything else that's like going on in my life, and it's been that way for a long, long time.
That's
It's
hard,
always
isn't it? That's frustrating.
very right
Like you
because
don't want to tell your business, but you want people to know that there's more about you than I'm just a baseball player. I'm just a basketball player. I definitely feel
exactly,
that.
how it is. It's like, you know, how's baseball? How's basketball? Oh, it's so and so's good. Or how's school? And they're asking that question, so that makes they make sure that you're doing whatever you got to do to stay on top of school, so you can stay on top of your sport. You know what I mean? Stay
Exactly.
eligible, make sure you're able to get scholarships or make it whatever, make grades. You know what I mean? So it's always a loaded
Exactly.
question on whatever end. You know, because it's always, how is this? How is this going? How's school going? Oh, school's going good. Oh, dude, how's baseball? You getting any looks? You know what I mean? You got any scouts? Any recruiters? How was the scholarships like? What's this and that? And it's like, all right, dude. And then they get done asking questions about that, and it's all, oh, take care. Well, all right, dude. See you soon. It's like, all right, dude. Cool, cool, cool.
Yo, and sometimes
So,
they don't even let you answer all the questions. They just ask you like 10 back to back to back to back to back. Yes,
yeah.
man.
So
Get
yeah,
used to it, Miles.
it's been like that, and you know how it is. I'm sure other athletes experience the same thing. Especially the ones that have had some success beyond high school or was projected to have some success from an early age. It's always,
Definitely.
hey, this so and so's, so you get introduced to families or whatever, or at family function. Oh yeah, this is my nephew. This is my niece. She's a basketball player. He's a baseball player. He's just not. It's not even, bro. Even at the internship, my boy Steve, love Steve to death. He's a dude that hired me, man. Cool dude, cool dude. I met like it's a very small office. COVID, there was a handful of people still in the office. I met like two, three people that, oh, you're the baseball player Steve was talking about. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, nice to meet you, dude.
Wow. Yep. Yep. Been through all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
it's
you said, many others have, and it's crazy. Like we're sharing this, and I never even thought about this. Like I told you before we started this, I never thought to even have a conversation with a former athlete. Period, not just on the podcast, but in general about their experience. So I definitely feel that.
and and for me, like growing up in California, we're a big state, so we have a lot of people. I can't imagine what it would be like to have gone through that in a smaller state. You give a Washington, an Oregon, Ohio, a
Yeah,
Michigan, anything,
it's
you
bad.
know,
It's bad. I can't.
to have.
Yeah, it's hard. Like it's for me. I've been done playing for what now 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I lost track, but a while, and haven't been at UConn in 11 years now. And people still to this day recognize me for that. Like, why did you leave UConn? Or, some people think that I finished at UConn and then went overseas. People don't have a fucking clue of what I did, but they're gonna ask because they remember from that long ago. So that's why I'm telling you, get used to it because you're how old and you just stopped playing. So get used to it's gonna happen the rest of your life.
That's right.
If you stay there.
It just happened. What's today? Wednesday. It happened on Monday. There's one of my friends I went to high school with. I've seen him probably. This is probably my second or third time seeing him since we graduated. But like we follow each other on social media, whatever. So like, I don't really blame him. So like we haven't seen each other. But I saw him at the gym Monday, and say what's up, whatever, whatever. He goes, "Hey, dude, like you still at where'd you go after high school? You still at Fresno?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, dude. I was at Fresno. I'm not at Fresno anymore. I finished up in North Carolina." And I'm like, "Damn, like this was 6, 7 years ago." At this point.
Exactly. Yeah. And people still remember. And has he ever left from Pittsburgh?
I don't know. Honestly, I forgot where he went to college at.
Okay, I was say maybe not, or maybe he just been back longer than you, but people, for whatever reason, remember more shit about you than you remember about you, which is crazy. It don't
Yeah,
matter how long you leave.
yeah, but it was something. But yeah, that whole pressure to not only live up to expectations for yourself, but live up to the expectation that you feel like you have to live up for your family and for your community, and that pressure like you put on yourself for that. 'Cause especially kids that come from families that aren't financially fluent enough to have something to fall back on. You know,
Definitely.
like, hey, if this doesn't work out, what are you gonna do? Oh, shoot, I don't know. I don't have, a trust fund, or I don't have, a fat inheritance or
Mhm.
anything like that to fall back on. I feel for those kids going through that, because I know I went through that, and it was something that it was more so I put on myself, but it was just something I was conscious of. It was a fact. It was a fact. We didn't have, a bunch of money to fall back on. You know, we didn't have, we didn't tuition money. I was very fortunate. I had my first year, my only year at Fresno State. I ended up paying like $800 for the whole year and I was the only tuition I paid all throughout college.
But
I was
800 is still a lot for some people too, though, which is
exactly,
crazy. Yeah.
exactly. I was very fortunate enough for that. But if it would have got up in the thousands,
You don't know.
exactly.
And that's
You
something
know,
that I want to do with the podcast. Um, I know I shouldn't be telling everything I want to do, but it's fine. I believe that dreams will happen anyway. Is to share people's stories. So these middle school and high school kids who grow up in the hood or in the trailer parks or just wherever, and they are star athletes though, and nobody knows where they live at. Nobody knows that they go home and are hungry, and their mom or their dad is working however many jobs to take care of all their siblings. So I would love to, if I could, go into their homes and show what these kids go through, or just sit down somewhere with their parents and with them and talk about our grandparents, whoever it is, because sometimes kids don't grow up with their parents. I went to school with a lot of kids who were foster kids and had no idea. Some athletes, some not, but like you just never know what people are going through. So I'm glad we're having this conversation and pointing this out, because many of our favorite athletes were starving at home growing up, in one parent homes, poor, getting evicted, things like that. So some even foster kids.
yeah,
So I'm very glad we're having this conversation and pointing this out.
definitely.
Black athlete, do you feel like you had different expectations from your white teammates or like white peers who played sports?
Like are you asking me if I felt like they had different expectations of me, or like the coaches had different expectations of us?
Did the coaches have different expectations of you, or even fans, so to speak, have different expectations of you and the other athletes of color, or was it pretty equal?
I don't know if it was necessarily expectations, but I just feel like, and I feel like it's also the same with a lot of athletes of color, especially black athletes, is like, we have to be that much better than our white counterparts in order to get the same type of opportunity, and
Mhm.
I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say that the expectation from the coaches were different, but I would say that I've had experiences where I was held to a different standard, and that standard was a lot higher. Not to say that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to hold your players to a high standard, but to hold your players to the same standard is the right way to do it. And if you're gonna set the bar high across the board, set the bar high across the board.
I
Don't have one dude,
agree.
don't have one dude or one girl at one level and have everyone else on a lower level, and then start pulling the plug on people, when they're not meeting their level, when their level is already higher than the other level. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you take it to like a basketball, scenario. If you got, a point guard of color, you know, shooting 50, 70, and 80 from the field, you know, and you got a white one shooting 40, 60, and 60 from the field, but you're benching black one as soon as they drop down to 50, 60, 70. It's like, hey,
Yep.
you know, people start to get held to a different standard. Um, and they just have to be that much better than others. And that's something that I didn't realize until like I got to college. And my grandfather was the one that started, I mean, as a kid, he always, dropped some little nuggets here and there and stuff like that. But I mean, I didn't really, resonate with what he was saying because I didn't really have any type of perspective to have that type of vision and really understand. But my grandfather's, in his mid 70s, if I remember right, and he played basketball at University of Portland. Grew up in Pittsburgh, and at the time when he was growing up, the town next to us was segregated. Black people were not would not go into Antioch, and if you did, there was, it was dangerous, and so he lived through a time where being black playing sports was still dangerous, and you were still seen as, danger, a threat, this and that. He would always, that was one thing he was always big on with us was, hey, you gotta be that much better than the next guy because they're not gonna give you the same room as they give the next guy to mess up, you know.
Did you
So yeah,
understand that when he was saying that to you back then?
no, not at all. Because when I was playing, when I was younger, high school, middle school, stuff like that, you're playing on a team of, you know, some teens, 12, 13, 14, kids on the team, travel ball, and you got your 9 players, that play, maybe 10 or 11, maybe a couple guys subbing, whatever. But when you get to that college level and your numbers are up and you're bringing in new guys every year, and hey, if something happens, scholarship's gone, or they're recruiting another kid to come in and take your spot. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand that until I got to college when I started to see, hey, I had, one off week, one whatever, were off to my standards, but you compare me to the rest of the class, we're right there, But that off week, off day for me dropped me to the bottom of the totem pole. You know what I
They
mean?
always harder on us, man. Way harsher punishments, and it all goes back to you know what, but that's gonna have to be part three because I don't think I got the energy or mental capacity to talk about that tonight. But definitely, I agree 1000%. And I think that's something that we talked about a while ago was and the video I had sent you, I talked about being even dark skinned, that making a huge difference, colorism making a huge difference
Yeah.
also when it comes to punishments. And even with the people who look like us, it's the same thing. The expectations are different, the punishments are different, everything is completely different. Talk about you talked about like you just got done in May and you recognized even before you finished playing that you were having identity issues and that everything was about your sport. So now
Yeah.
that you're done with baseball, how, even though people still coming up to you, you baseball Miles forever, you know this,
Yeah.
but how is Miles taking care of himself and making sure that he keeps that identity separate?
I haven't. I mean, I barely watch baseball anymore. I think I picked up a bat 1 or 2 times. I've thrown a ball maybe once since May. I've done whatever I could to try and separate myself from the game. Love it. I appreciate everything I did for me, this and that. But for me, that chapter of my life is closed. And I do not want to reopen it. I'm very content with, the friends I made, the memories I had, the lessons I learned, all that stuff. I worked as hard as I could to get to the level I could. Yeah, at the end of the day, didn't get to the level I wanted to, and that's okay. I'm content with that. So for me, I'm like, hey, I don't want to. I mean, and this even goes back to like the Michael Valley tournament, and just playing in recreational leagues or stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I don't want to. I'm good. I played collegiately. And that was the highest level I got to. The game took a lot out of me. And I'm closed, signed off. I'm good.
Said
You
you
know what I
wiped your hands of it, huh?
mean? Exactly.
Feel that.
For me, like keeping on playing, whether it be, softball leagues or little softball tournaments here and there, for me, it's like leaving the book open a little bit, you know, because the softball
Definitely.
tournament, the softball league could lead to a bigger league. And now they have travel softball teams where they go out and play every weekend and do this, and that, and the other. I'm like, nah, I'm cool. I
I
did what
feel
I could. My body did what it could. My mind knew what it could. Like I'm straight. So for me, I'm away from the game every way that I could be. I watch it from time to time. But what I am getting more into is women's softball. I got some friends that play professional softball up in the Athletes Unlimited League. Shout out Athletes Unlimited,
nice.
great league, great new organization starting up. But I'm really, big into supporting them at this point. It's new for them. It's new for me. They started it on the back end of my career. So it was something, as a friend, I can, hey, hop on, show some love for them, stuff like that.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'm away from the game. And I was fortunate enough to find a passion for helping people on the back end of my career. And for me, like it resonated, and it really like clicked for me. Rest in peace, Kobe. I saw a Kobe interview. I'm big on interviews. I like to see how people think and stuff like that. So I was watching a Kobe interview, and he was talking about how towards the early 2000s, the early 2010s, if I remember right, he started to find his love for writing when he did that short film and stuff like that. He said he would write on the plane rides, and that's how he found his passion after basketball. So he said, I started to find my passion towards the end of my career while I was still playing. So it made that transition easier when I got done dribbling the ball, that I could completely stay in stride with my life and just step into something else more fully. So for me, that helped because at first, when COVID hit and I first officially like retired, I was like, hey, I'm done. I didn't have no clue. I didn't have that other passion to where I was like, hey, I can step into that. But I was fortunate enough to get that other year, start my master's program to where when May 7th hit and that last pitch was thrown, yeah, it hurt, to know everything was done. But at the same time, I was like, hey, I already know what I'm walking into next, So now we're getting ready for that. I had summer school for my master's program like 10 days later. So I was like, all
Yeah,
right, let me see what books I need. Let me see where my class is at, this and
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah. So that helped for me to transition. That's, a piece of advice I have for all those athletes listening is, yeah, I'm sure you love your sport and that's amazing. Love it, work hard at it, but go try and find a hobby. That's what my dad would always tell me when I was, a younger college athlete, and I didn't listen, and I should have, but I didn't.
Mhm.
But go out there and find a hobby, find something you like to do outside of your sport. Spend some time, art, movies, whatever you like to do, go try something, go see what you like. So that way, when sports was going bad, when you need an outlet, you got an outlet.
Mhm.
When the time is done where you're not playing no more, you got something else to step into. And at the very least, you have something to take your mind off things. That's something that you can do to enjoy yourself. Because you know how it is when your game is going bad, and that's the only outlet you have. Now
That's
what the hell am
it.
I supposed to do? You
That's
know?
yeah. That's crazy, man. And now that we talking about it, I can remember literally the first time I can remember my dad telling me that same thing. And I was young, really, really young. So it's crazy. I can even recall that. And I think we were at a park and we did a park at home. And it's the only two places I went besides school. And not like the kids nowadays, they don't go nowhere. But yeah, I remember him telling me like I had to find a hobby because I was already taking it so seriously and I was getting so like angry. If I would miss one shot, I was pissed, Miles. Like I thought I was MJ times 1,000. You couldn't tell me nothing. And he had my dad. I was just on another session. Yeah, I was on another session before this, and I was telling her like my dad has given me so much great advice. And that's something that he definitely told me was to find a hobby because I was taking it too seriously. And at some point, I wasn't going to love it anymore, even like it anymore, because it was going to consume me. And he maybe didn't use those exact words, but essentially that's what he was saying. And, it's kind of when we look back, it kind of sucks that we didn't understand certain stuff. But I really believe that if my journey didn't go the way that it did, I wouldn't be able to serve people the way that I need to serve them because I wouldn't have this experience. I wouldn't have this knowledge. I wouldn't be as relatable. How many people can relate to LeBron and for women's basketball, Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, I'm not too big on football and baseball, but all the good people in those sports, a lot of us can't relate to them, but a
Yeah.
lot of people can relate to me and you who did go off and do something and end up coming back home. Ain't nothing wrong with coming back home.
Yeah.
Sometimes you come back home for a little bit, sometimes you stay home, and that either way, it's fine. It's what you do with where you are at. But yeah, I wish that I listened to a lot of the stuff my parents told me, but it's never too late with some stuff because like I wrap myself up in everything that I do, even the podcast. So it's still that advice is very applicable still. And thank you for sharing that. You must have read my mind because that was my next question. What was your advice? So thank you. But Dave, it was something else I wanted to ask you though. I know I wanted to ask you, like, do you ever think you'll play for fun? Now, that's not my main question, but answer that, and then hopefully I think about it.
Uh, I don't know, man. I really don't know. It really just depends for me on where my head's at with it. It's not so much, a matter of, will I physically be able to do it? Because my body, it didn't take anything significant. It's not like I tore ligaments or anything like that. So I'm never not so much worried about that. But for me, like I said before, I'm more so worried about, do I want to open up that chapter for me again? Because I'm the type where like, hey, if I'm gonna go play, then I'm gonna go, get ready to play. I'm not just gonna show up one day and go play. I'm gonna go take swings. I'm gonna take throws. I'm gonna, do my movements and stuff like that in the week or a couple weeks prior to make sure, hey, my body's used to doing this stuff again. So
Exactly.
for me, and I don't want that to be a slippery slope for me mentally, for me emotionally to get invested in it again, because I mean we both competed at a high level, and I don't know many people that have competed at our level that can compete casually. That's not a thing.
That's
you know
real. That's
that is
real.
not a thing. I'm not gonna go out there to just go through the motions.
I can't even train or coach kids, Miles. I'm too competitive. I'm like, bro, y'all suck. Give me the ball. Let's go.
Exactly,
I
you
can't even
can't.
train nobody. It's bad.
Exactly. I think, Derek Jeter had a quote where he was like, yeah, I'm if I play you in anything, I'm trying to win. If I play you in checkers, I'm trying to win.
Yeah,
And I am that same way. I'm not going to go, not going to go out there to go through the motions. And for me, I don't want that to unlock something mentally and open that door back up for me again to where I'm like, hey, like I don't want that to come back to the forefront of my life. I
exactly.
don't know if I'll ever. I don't know if I'll ever play again.
Yeah.
Recreationally or not. The thought has crossed my mind from time to time because you go out there and you see people compete and you're like, I want to do it. But then that emotion wears off a little bit, and then you get to start thinking like, hey, like is this really the best thing for you? And I don't know. I can't say yes or no. But I can say it will depend on where I'm at, mentally and emotionally with the pretty much the idea and the reality of stepping back on a field again in whatever capacity that it is.
I feel that. It took me a while after I stopped playing, and everybody, even my family, asked me those same questions. Why don't you play no more? You don't even touch the basketball. You don't want to go to the park. No, I don't want to do shit. I just finished playing for my whole life. I don't even want to look at a basketball. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to do nothing. Like, I just want to lay here and be unbothered for once in my life. So I
Yeah.
definitely feel that. And it wasn't that I wanted to ask you anything. I wanted to say that it's great that you heard that Kobe quote, because when you are when you know that you did everything that you could and you feel like you gotten everything you could out of it, you're done. Like, you are fine with where you left off at. And that's so hard for other people because they probably didn't give it their all, or they didn't make it as far as they wanted to. We did everything that we wanted to and could do with what we had with the game. So I don't think there's anything wrong if you never pick up a ball or a bat again. And if you don't teach your kids how to play, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, because you did it. You already did it. You did what you wanted to do. And that's a huge accomplishment. And like you said, there aren't too many people who make it to where we went, or definitely past that. It's so hard. And not saying that, like, in a bad way, the shit is just hard. We worked really hard to get what we
Yeah.
got. You know what I'm saying? And God, also, we got God-given talent. You don't just wake up and are like this. It takes a lot, and definitely some God-given ability. So it ain't nothing wrong with it if you want to take your stuff down. I even took some of my stuff down. I put it back up because I got to interview y'all, but I didn't for a little bit, like, I didn't want to see it, because recently, like, I've been just trying to just heal, just connect with my inner child.
Yeah.
And she's hurt. She is very hurt because her basketball career didn't go the way that it went. So I had to take it down so that I could, like, really, go through it. Now I put it back up. It's fine. It's cool. I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I can somewhat connect with it, but honest to God, Miles, I don't remember. And I know a lot of people say this too. They don't remember these, the tournaments and stuff like that. Like Serena, some of her grand slams, that she just won a couple years ago, she don't even remember nothing about it. But I just don't connect with the basketball part of me at all. So, like, you talked about identity issues, I completely disassociated while I was playing, like, a long time ago. I completely disassociated from that person, instead of, like, being okay with Samari being Samari, but she's also good at basketball. I just didn't want to be associated with basketball at all.
No, that makes sense. And that's the hard part, is finding that strength and finding the ability to disassociate from it. How do you go about it? It's easier said than done, and to those athletes out there, it's easier said than done. When you have your sport 6 days a week, that takes up most, if not all of your days. How do you step away outside of yourself to be like, hey, I'm Miles the person, I'm Samari the person, I'm so and so the person, not so and so the athlete. I'm more than the practice, I'm more than the game, more than the workouts, whatever. So, like, I talk to people a little bit about like how you went about, like, disassociating yourself. Was it like boundaries? Was it, hey, I'm only going to allow myself to do this, for this amount of time, then I'm going to take time for myself? Like, how did you go about that? Because I'm sure we went about it different ways. I'm sure that people would definitely learn something from each of how we did it.
Interviewing me now. Okay. Put me on the spot. So for me, it was in a very, very, very unhealthy way.
Okay.
So it was like a lot of daydreaming, a lot of wishing that I was somewhere else. I would be in practice and would intentionally, and this was like in college too, but it started very early, middle school, high school, where I would just intentionally think about anything else but basketball. And that's, I think, also what used to bother me a lot, is that I wasn't nearly as mentally healthy as I needed to be and should have been, and was still killing. So, like, how good what could I have been? I had to let that go, because, again, my story is my story for a reason. But so this is all extremely unhealthy. So I don't advise anybody to do this, but to get back on track to, like, recently, it happened after I stopped playing, was that I had to accept that, one, I was done, that I made the decision to stop playing basketball. And And I had to go through, why didn't I love the game no more? What was it that really bothered me? So I had to keep going backwards to now I can accept that I played. I can accept that things hurt me along my career, whether it was family or people on blogs, teammates, whoever. I can accept those things and be okay with it. I can accept that I played as hard as I could with the health, the state that I was in mentally, even physically, because eventually that stress and anxiety weighs on your body. So there wasn't much I could do at a point, especially once I got to college. So I had to go acceptance, the key word, to put it very simply, acceptance and letting go, empathizing with people, forgiving them, understanding. It's hard for me personally, because I love people and I want everybody to love me, is that people really like be hating on you and you competing with you, and whole time, like you said, you just want to be Miles the person and Samari the person. Like, you can't compete with Samari the basketball player anyway, but I'm not even that type of person to think like that. Now I am, because I need to, if ain't nobody else gonna up me as a dark-skinned Black woman, I gotta do it myself. But but nah, I used to be cocky too back in my day. That's why everybody didn't like me. But seriously though, like you have to, when you are healing, acceptance, and it's hard to go back without blaming people. And that was the hardest part for me, was I was blaming everybody. Like, if this person had been nicer, and if my dad had did this, my mom had did this. But I had to accept that they couldn't do those things because somebody didn't teach them how to do it. And again, while that's not my fucking problem, I had to get over it, because what was I going to do about it? I'm 29. That girl, Samari, was 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up. So like, am I going to keep being hurt, which is hard to say? Like, am I going to just, because you don't want to tell yourself to get the fuck over, is what I'm trying to say. But you have to eventually, like, just let it go. Not get over it, but let it go. Feel it, heal it, let it go. That's it.
Yeah.
But don't do it in an unhealthy way, because that took me down a complete, just, this word keeps coming up. There's this phrase, rabbit hole, just going down, 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 and hanging out with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, saying the wrong things, and just trying to be this person that I wasn't, and to the point that it still affects me to this day, being my authentic self, which I know we all go through it. For me, it's difficult to accept, because I thought I always knew who I was, and that's not who I was. So all that comes from practicing disassociating for so long.
Yeah, no, that I definitely, resonate with what you said, especially, in the beginning part of it, you talk about mentally you weren't in the right space to step in the situation. And, the more I think back about this, is probably, a year or two ago, where I really had to come to the acceptance that, when I left high school, going to Fresno State, specifically in that environment, mentally, I was not in the right space to go and play Division I baseball at that school. At least I can't speak to other programs besides the ones that I was in, but mentally I was not in the right place for it, because it was my identity, 100%. You know, like most Division I athletes as freshmen, they were the kid in high school. They were the dude. You know what I mean? That's the recognition. That's, the identity that they had. That's how everyone associated them. So when you get to college, you're still that same you're still that same person in the classroom, you know, introductions. Hey, I'm Miles. From this, where I'm on the baseball team. Everyone, you're an athlete? An athlete? So it's like, and for the rest of the semester, it's, oh, yeah, how's baseball going? Oh, this and that. Oh, this and that. Walk around campus, and 9 times out of 10, you're in your team issued gear, because that's, let's be honest, that's like all we wear, because that's, we always have practice. We always have something. So might as well not change as much as we can. So let's just wear the team gear so everyone knows, oh, he's an athlete. She's an athlete. Oh, they're on this team, this and that. So I got there, and mentally I didn't have any type of outlet besides baseball. So when baseball wasn't going well, my whole life was shit.
Yeah.
When baseball wasn't going well, school was still going fine. I still took care of business, because had to stay eligible. You know how it is. So
But me
when
feel me.
yeah, so when baseball wasn't going well, I was not that it was that way for shoot the majority of my life, really the majority of my career. When baseball wasn't going and everything else was affected. I
Man,
wasn't, you know, I didn't have the ability at the time to disassociate from it. So for me, like what allowed me to do was I had to stop training as much. I had to stop doing the video. I had to stop trying to piece things together from different people. I had to stop, you know, throwing or hitting as much. I had to step away from it from that perspective. I got to a point where practice was over. I was over because
man.
mentally I couldn't stay in that same space for all that time because it would just consume all the thoughts and I get information overload. You know, I seek
Mhm.
out all this information on whatever I was struggling with. And then I it got to a point where my head and my identity was filled with everyone else's opinion, because I just wanted all the information that I could and I couldn't think for myself. So that was what helped me. Was I had to step away from all the information that I was getting and start to think for myself. And that's when I started to think for myself and create my own ideas and start to unveil my own personality a little bit. Because I was no longer trying to portray this image of a certain athlete or trying to do this certain move of a certain athlete. Not to say the young athletes out there shouldn't and go out there and try and pick things up from other people's game, but do so in a manner where you're not trying to be a carbon copy of another person. There's a fine line between that stuff. So for me, that's what I had to realize. And another thing that helped me was boundaries with my family. I had to tell my parents, hey, I don't want you to ask about games anymore. We're in an age where all the stats are online. So if you want to know about a game, go online, look at the
Yo,
game. I don't want to hear anymore. How'd the game go? Well, what'd you do in the game? Well, why this happened? No, 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 no. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it.
y'all
So when the
kids
game's over,
brave nowadays. I wish I would have told my daddy. I
yeah,
would to ask me. What?
I
Y'all
was able how I did it though. Kids listening, you gotta do it in the right way. How I did, I felt like it was a good way because I asked them to do it and then I explained to them, hey, this is why I need you to do it. I'm struggling with this. I need you guys to do this so that way it helps me not struggle with this. We can talk about, I said, we can talk about anything you want. Just please do not ask me about the games after the games because I'm struggling with this. Do not go out there and text your parents, hey, don't text me, don't talk to me about this, not the other. It won't go well. Don't do it. But it's a good lesson in communication. Explain to them, hey, this is what I need you to do, and this is why I need you to do it. Please help me out. Because at the end of the day, they are still your parents. So if you tell them, hey, I'm struggling with something, more often than not, they will help you. So communicate. And that's, just a general lesson for you kids out there. Anyway, communicate what you need. Do not expect people to read your mind because they will not.
That's deep. And with that, I'm gonna leave it right there, Miles. I don't think you could do no better. Hey, you can't end it no better than that. Communication is key. Open up
Yeah.
that mouth, ask and you shall receive.
Yep. Closed
Oh,
mouths don't get fed.
hey, there we go. Yes, sir. Miles, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. We might have to do like a little series or something together. We got a link for
Yeah, of course. I ain't got listen, I got internship. I got at least one night a week that I'm free.
that. Bet. We're gonna talk about it. I
All
appreciate
right.
you, my man.